Welcome to MDL Crochet for this stitch tutorial on the scaled stitch. It is a 2-stitch, 2-row repeat, and it can be done in odd or even number stitches. It has little to no curl. This sample I did in a 4-weight or Aran yarn with a 6.5mm Tunisian hook. The stitch is very stretchy, vertically and horizontally, and here's what the back looks like. At the end, I show you how to close this stitch off. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So I've already went ahead and I pulled up my chain of 20. Now this stitch is a 2-stitch pattern. However, it doesn't matter if it's odd or even. It is a 2-row repeat. Now with Tunisian, we always pull up our foundation row in the back bump, which is from the second chain on your hook. So there's chain 1, there's chain 2, flip it over, and then you have the back bumps. And you're just going to go ahead and pull up your foundation row, go into the back bumps, and pull up your loop. And you'll do that all the way down until you have all the loops on your hook. And go ahead and count. It never hurts to count. And then you'll do a standard return pass. If you do not know how to do a standard return pass, I will show you here in just a moment. So once you have all your loops up and you've counted to make sure your count is correct, to do a standard return pass, you'll just yarn over and chain 1. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. Yarning over and pulling through 2 is your sequence for your standard return pass. You'll do that all the way down to the end till you only have 1 loop left on your hook. And I will meet you there. Okay, so now we have finished our foundation row, and this is where we're going to start our sequence. The first stitch will be you're just inserting your hook. You are not pulling up a loop, because what we're going to do now is at the very back on the top of your rows, every row you have a bump. Now those bumps can sag and kind of go to the back a little bit, but you have these top bumps. They're the same bumps you pull into for the top loop stitch. So the second stitch in this sequence is we're going to go through that top bump and yarn over, and then you're going to put up a loop, and then you're going to go into the next bar because you just technically pulled it up from here, so we don't count this one. Go into the next bar, and you're just going to put your needle in, and then go to the next and go to the back bump, yarn over and pull up. Go into the next bar, just put your needle into it, you're not pulling up a loop, and then the very next bar you would go into, you're just going to go into the top bump. And that is your sequence. You can see what it's supposed to look like, and you just continue that. This is considered like a running stitch. So you'll do a running stitch, and then go into your back bump, or your top bump. Running stitch, top bump, 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 and then you'll just do your standard enclosure, which is going through the last on your side, splitting the inside bar and the 2 chevron, yarning over, pull up that loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way down to the end, and we'll start the second row of this repeat. So for the second row of this repeat, since we did a regular running stitch there, we're going to do a top bump here. Now this one on the very beginning is going to be a little bit tight because it is right next to where your yarn is coming out of. So you'll have to maneuver yourself. What I like to do is I'll take the yarn and move it out of the way I can see it better, and go right into that top bump. And then you can drop everything back down and pull up your loop. And then it's a running stitch. And then a top bump. A running stitch. And you can see the pattern now. Where you did a running stitch prior, you're doing a top bump. Where you did a top bump prior, you're doing a running stitch. Top bump, and then a running stitch. Running stitch. Top bump. 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 Running stitch, and your end stitch. And you just take your needle, bring it down, fold your work over, do your end stitch. Now for the end stitch, what we're doing is you're trying to separate this bar right here and this side. There's two to this side here, and there's only that one bar. So you're just trying to separate the two. The best way to do that is just take your needle, pull it back just a little bit. Don't lose your stitches. Bring it down to that row and fold your work onto your needle, and it's going to go exactly where you need it to go. So go ahead and pull up your end stitch, chain one, and it's a standard return pass. So that's a yarn over and pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, repeating that step until you only have the one loop left on your hook, and then we'll come back and we'll do row one of the 2-row repeat. So now we're starting row one of the 2-row repeat, which exactly what we did in row one. It's a running stitch, and then again where you can see where you did these elongated front bars, which is your running stitches, that's where you're going to put your top bump, and you'll repeat that. So running stitch, top bump, 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 and our end stitch, If you need to pull your end stitch out a little bit because it's getting a little crazy on the end because of that running stitch, you can. Now it's chain 1 and a standard return pass, and then I'll see you here in just a second for row 2 of the 2-row repeat. So we're back to row 2 of the 2-row repeat, and this is the very first stitch will be our top bump, and this is the one that I find it always a little bit of an issue because it's right here at the edge. You can see it right there. Best way to handle that is just move your yarn out of the way and then go in and pull up your loop. And then it's just running stitch, top loop, and repeat the sequence. Running stitch, top loop, 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 and that is the scale stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and do a few more rows, and I'll be back with you in just a second. Alright, so when you're ready to close this project off, you'll continue it's in this stitch. So if it would be a normal running stitch, you'll just do a simple stitch and close it off and just slip it off. And if it's a bump stitch, just go through the bump and just slip it off. And that's how you'd close this project off. You'll do that all the way down the end, leaving yourself, do your end stitch, leaving yourself a decent tail so you can weave in, and you will be done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and we'll be right back in just a second. So now that we have our stitch closed off, that's what it will look like. It is a very stretchy stitch, horizontally and vertically. And this is what the back looks like. You can see how it gets the name, and it'll be great in many projects. And if you found this tutorial helpful, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And leave me a comment. I will chit-chat with you. And as always, folks, keep stitching.